Number 1. This isn't my story, but that of close family friends who are essentially like grandparents to me, and they will be referred to as such for this story. The year was 1978, well before I was born, so some details may be a bit off. One night, my grandparents were hosting a party. Neighbours and friends came over, and the party went on late into the night. Two of the guests, a husband and a wife, decided to leave early, as they were planning on having people over the next day to celebrate the wife's birthday. The couple goes home, and the party continues. The next day, the family of this couple show up for the planned celebration, but finds them dead, shot multiple times in a brutal home invasion. Obviously, their family and the entire neighbourhood were completely devastated and terrified by this discovery. Months later, their murder is linked to several others that have occurred throughout the year, in which the victims were shot with a .22 caliber pistol. Fortunately, one of these creeps committing the crimes wasn't very bright, and was caught and arrested while attempting to use their last victim's credit card. An investigation ensues, and two men, who are brothers, confess and are charged with the murder of my grandparents' neighbours, as well as 8 other people. That story alone is terrifying, but the creepiest part for me is what my grandparents learned while attending the trial of these two disgusting individuals. They confessed that my grandparents, not their neighbours, were the intended target, having the largest and most secluded home in the neighbourhood. The brothers had been to my grandparents' home previously, had been watching them, and decided to come back on that night to carry out their plan, not expecting them to be having a party. On the night of the party, they stood outside my grandparents' house, watching and waiting for everyone to leave. Apparently, they got tired of this, and seized their opportunity when they saw my grandparents' neighbours leaving the party early and walking home on foot, and decided to follow them instead. There could be no better ending to this devastating story than those two creeps rotting in jail, and I'm happy to relay that this is exactly what happened to them. So, .22 caliber serial killer brothers, I'm glad you both rotted to death in jail and never got the chance to meet my grandparents. Number 2. This particular event happened almost a year ago, sometime in mid-October. A couple of friends and I drove out to visit an old friend of ours from high school, George, who now lived about an hour out of the city. We spent the whole day with him, and it was really late when we decided to start the drive back home. My friend, Lisa, was passed out in the passenger seat. She'd had a few drinks, and decided to spend the ride home asleep. My other friend, Sam, was sitting in the back seat behind Lisa, and was playing a game on her smartphone. I, of course, was driving. I was following the GPS's instructions back to the freeway. At that moment, we were driving down a dark street, with thick trees bordering both sides. Everything was pretty peaceful, with the only sounds I could hear being that of the car moving along the road, and the radio on low volume. Suddenly, my car let out a loud jolt, and it felt as if I had hit something. Sam let out a shocked scream, while Lisa remained dead asleep. I slammed on the brakes, and the car came to a halt. I was breathing heavily when I asked what the hell had just happened. Sam peered out through the back window and gasped. She turned to me with an angry look on her face and shouted that I had hit a dog. I looked out the window, and sure enough, a dog was lying in the road a few yards behind my car. Sam is a pretty big animal lover, so I wasn't surprised to see her getting pissed at me. She was about to open her door and rush to the animal's aid when I stopped her. Once I'd gotten over the shock that I'd run over the dog, I got a feeling in my gut that something was off. I'm no braggart, but I consider myself to be a very attentive and safe driver. My eyes were on the road at all times, and I distinctly remember not seeing any dog in the road prior to the car jolting. Yes, it was dark, but I was sure that I would have at least seen the dog in the headlights before hitting it. I looked out the back window and took a closer look at the dog, or at least as much as I could make out in the reddish light coming from my tail lights. It was a fairly big dog, at least a golden retriever or something like that. One particular detail caught my attention though. I could see the dog's tail wagging. Now, I'm no expert on the mannerisms of animals, but I was sure the last thing a dog would be doing if it was hit by a car would be to wag its tail. After a moment of thought, I pressed my foot down on the accelerator and sped off. Sam snapped at me, ordering me to go back, but I told her that something was wrong with the whole situation. She continued to argue, but fell silent as she turned towards the back window and looked out. She asked, "What the heck?" with a shaken voice. I looked in the rearview mirror. Though it was dark, I was able to make out the silhouettes of 3 large figures emerging from the trees on the side of the road. The dog was now up on its feet and jumping around joyfully. The 3 figures looked in our direction as I pressed my foot down on the gas and sped off. Sam and I remained silent for the rest of the ride home. It wasn't until a few days later that we told Lisa about it. We've been back to visit George a few times since then, but we always make sure to leave before sunset. What I'm still not certain about is how they made the car jolt. Still, I dread to think about what would have happened to us if we had gotten out of that car. Number 3. This story takes place in 1977. The cast of characters includes my mum, my dad, my brother, and a serial killer. My brother was little at this time, and had been to a friend's house. I don't remember what the occasion was, but my parents were picking him up. It was late at night, and winter. My parents pick my brother up, load him into the car, and start driving. As they're leaving the neighbourhood to get to the main road, they see a man come out of the woods, holding a shotgun, and get into his van on the side of the road. Now, the area I grew up in is suburban, but the folks can be rather redneck. Seeing someone come out of the woods with a shotgun is worrisome, but usually just means it was a poacher. Dad just keeps driving. The man gets into his car and follows my parents onto the main road. Still nothing to be worried about. They make a few turns on the way home, and then it becomes increasingly obvious that the van was following them. They pull into the housing plan we lived in, which was mostly new construction. The van pulls into the plan behind them. At the time, our house was the only finished, occupied house on that little cul-de-sac. The streetlights hadn't even been turned on yet. Pitch black, winter, cold, isolated. The van pulls into our driveway behind my dad. Dad gets out of the car, sends my mum and brother into the house, and tells them to lock the door. My dad then stands at the nose of the car and just stares at the man inside. He waits. No questions, no bravado, no nothing. He just stands there and waits, intimidatingly. Now, what you need to know about my father at this time. He had a full-ride scholarship for football in college. dropped out, and decided that it would be fun to join the military and volunteer to go to Vietnam instead. He said he did this simply because he was bored. He spent a year on some godforsaken little island at a ranger camp. He is an intimidating man, and always has been. Without being overly tall or large, he just has a presence. You just don't want to fuck with him. He's now much older and somewhat overweight, but in 1977, he must have been something, because without any words being exchanged, the man puts his van into reverse and drives away. The story doesn't end there though. The next morning, it was all over the news. A man had been murdered the night before in the housing plan my parents picked my brother up from. Just a street away, a man had been shot through his living room window with a shotgun. He died on the floor, while the wife tried to flee. The kids all this time asleep upstairs. The wife led the man through the woods on a chase. They find her body a few hours later in the woods. This was the same area where my family saw the man come out of. Turns out, it was the serial killer Edward Surratt. Hi guys, Lazy Masquerade here. I had a little bit of extra spare time, so I thought I'd make an impromptu video for you guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure to subscribe and join the Lazy Legion. Check out Erin and Anthony's artwork via the links down below, and I'll have another video ready for you on Tuesday. So until then guys, stay spooky, and remember, the best things happen in the dark.